Hello, I'm Mordecai. Let's look at some tricks, tips, and techniques that will help us pass our IELTS reading test. Yes, the IELTS reading test is difficult as compared to the listening, the speaking, and the writing test when doing our IELTS exams. But I use these tricks, tips, and techniques to get my band score of 8 in the IELTS reading test. Over the years, I have coached a lot of people about how to pass their IELTS exams. And these tricks and techniques actually help them to pass the exams with ease. First, a general overview about the IELTS reading test. The duration is 1 hour, that's 60 minutes, and within this 60 minutes, you have to answer all your questions and also transfer your answers onto the IELTS reading answer sheet. Also, with the IELTS reading test, there are three passages. So we have the passage 1, passage 2, and passage 3. People do say use 20 minutes for passage 1, 20 minutes for passage 2, and 20 minutes for passage 3. But I say no. Usually, the passage 1 is not difficult. It's easiest among the three. Passage 2, the difficulty is not much, but it is not as easy as passage 1. But passage 3 is the most difficult among the three passages. I would advise that you spend at most 15 minutes with the passage 1, 20 minutes passage 2, and 25 minutes with the passage 3. Also, remember to accurately transfer your answers after each passage onto the answer sheet. It is not advisable to finish all the passages before you transfer your answers onto the IELTS reading answer sheet. Else, when they say stop work and you've not transferred any answer onto the answer sheet, I'm sorry, you are going to fail your IELTS exams. Now, let's look at the IELTS reading band score calculator, how to calculate your IELTS reading band score. So to get a band score of 9, you have to get 39 to 40 questions correctly. To get a band score of 8, you have to get 35 to 38 questions correctly. A band score of 7, you have to get 30 to 34 questions correctly. A band score of 6, 23 to 29 questions correct. A band score of 5, you have to get 15 to 22 questions correct. A band score of 4, you get 10 to 14 questions correct. Okay, now let's look at the tips, tricks, and techniques that will help us get our band 7, band 8, band 9 in our IELTS reading test. We all can read, but how fast can we find the answers in the passage we've read during the exams? You will be able to control your time by practicing, and again practicing. When you practice that much, you become more conversant with different question types. You also devise your strategy and you have a hold on your strategy. You apply that strategy at the exam center and that will help you manage your time very well. Also, with time management, you don't have to relax when you start the exams. We have the tendency to be relaxed, to mismanage our time, to slowly start the examination when they say start work. We wait until passage 3 when they have said 10 minutes more or 5 minutes more to stop work. Then we start, panicking. We start putting in some seriousness because probably we are behind time. That seriousness that you get when they tell you 10 minutes time for stop work is the same seriousness you have to start with the exams, okay? I mean, you don't have to be too relaxed when you start the exam because you think you have 60 minutes ahead of you, but you wait when they say 10 minutes more before you become very serious in answering the question. Mind you, From the time they say start work, the clock starts ticking. If you waste any time at the start of the passage, it is going to affect you at the end of your test. With regards to developing your own strategy, if you attend IELTS class or if you watch IELTS videos, a lot of people will tell you do this or do that, but I would advise you that we all have our individual strategy. Personally, I can't read faster, so I don't like the skim and scan strategy where you have to just do a quick read through the passage before you come to the passage again and properly read it in order to get your answers. I can't do that. In fact, my skimming can take me about 5 or 10 minutes, and that is all the time gone. So what I personally do is, the moment I see the passage, I start reading it, reading to get my answers, okay? I start reading the passage to get my answers. I don't do a quick read before I'll go back to do another read. That is my technique. You can also develop your own technique, and this is done by frequent practicing, frequent using of different techniques to see which one gives you a better mark. It is also advisable to create a real-time IELTS exams environment, okay? A real-time IELTS exams environment during your own private study, and be truthful to yourself. So if you registered for the paper-based IELTS, I will advise you to print all the IELTS reading materials you have. You can't register for paper-based IELTS to do the paper-based test whilst you study the IELTS on a computer. Some people may be convenient with that, but personally, I would advise you that you print it and study it. Create a real-time exams environment. Time yourself and do it on a paper, just as you'll be doing at the IELTS center during your IELTS test. If you registered for a computer-based IELTS, then it is also advisable to do your studies or to do your practice on a computer. Do not mix both, or when you get to the examination center, you may have problem with your time management. Time yourself. This helped me a lot, okay? What I did was I actually reduced the time a bit. So instead of the 60 minutes, I usually time myself for 50 minutes and try to do my practice within 50 minutes. I try very hard. I try to reduce the time so that when I get to the examination center, time management wouldn't be a problem. Make sure your environment is as quiet as the IELTS study center. So you have to create a real examination environment, and that will help you prepare very well. Most IELTS teachers will say highlight keywords, but I will go further and advise you to highlight any unusual word or unfamiliar vocabulary. So when you see a word, a sentence, a phrase, any unfamiliar vocabulary in the passage, you have to highlight that. When you highlight it, it saves you some time to find you the answers to the questions. Also, with the highlighting technique, you have to highlight dates, time, events, occasions, and places. You have to highlight all these things because they help you identify answers to the questions. If there are names, it is not always advisable to highlight names because sometimes they state names in the passage just like that. They don't have any influence on the answers, but some names also have some influence on the answers and the questions. So you can also highlight some names depending on where the name is in the passage. The next step is to familiarize yourself with the different question types in the IELTS reading test. There are different question types, and each of these question types have different ways of answering them. Example of the question type. So we have the multiple choice questions. We have the short answer questions, the matching questions, and the matching questions, we have subtypes under that. We have the matching heading, matching name, matching sentence endings, and matching information. So you see, even under the matching questions, we have subtypes under them. And you have to practice more and familiarize yourself with these question types. We also have the true, false, not given, or the yes, no, not given. So it can either be true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. The next one, classification questions. We have the fill in the gaps questions. Okay, fill in the gaps questions. And here it could be note completion, it could be table completion, summary completion, or flowchart completion. We also have the sentence completion questions. We have diagrams, notes, charts, graphs. They are all different question types in the IELTS reading test. The next step is to be mindful of the sequence of the answers in the passage. Usually, you find the answers in order. That is, you find the answer to question 10 before question 11, then question 12. But wait, it's not always like that. Sometimes you find the answer to question 4 before question 3. That is why you have to highlight very well. That is why you have to take note of some unfamiliar vocabulary, sentence, word, or phrase in the passage, so that if you have to go back, you wouldn't waste time. So yes, the answers follow in sequence, but it is not always like that. This means if you are searching the answer for question 5 and you are finding some difficulty, leave it. Don't waste time there. Move on to question 6. Probably you meet the answer to question 5 later in the passage. If you don't see the answer to question 5 later in the passage and you've done your highlighting very well, you just refer back and try to answer question 5 after you've answered the other questions. That is, do not waste time on a single question. Do not waste a minute or 2 minutes looking for an answer for one question. The next step, it is always advisable to at least read a number of questions before you start the passage. So personally, what I do is, the moment they say start work, I just read the title of the passage, read a couple of questions, then start reading the first paragraph of the passage. When you read a couple of questions, let's say 2 or 3 questions, it gives you a fair idea of exactly what you are looking for in the passage. It is not advisable to read a lot of questions because then you can't really retain some of the questions you've read. But if you read just a couple, like 2 or 3, you are able to retain the questions you've read. Then when you are looking for the answers to those questions in the passage, it makes it easier. You don't forget the questions you have read. Also, with regards to question answering, okay, be mindful of synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms and antonyms. They do use this a lot, especially in fill in the gaps question types. Okay, fill in the gaps question types. Be prepared to meet synonyms and antonyms when answering this question type. Now, transferring your answers onto the answer sheet. Just as I said, within the 60 minutes, you have to finish with your passage and also finish transferring your answers onto the answer sheet. If they say stop work and you've not transferred your answers onto the answer sheet, you will not be given any extra time to do that. So you have to be mindful of this. Now, when transferring your answers onto the answer sheet, you have to be very mindful of 1, any spelling mistake. Please, you can't go through the pain of finding an answer only to be marked wrong because of spelling mistake. It is painful and it's not a pleasant thing. It's advisable to answer your questions very well and make sure all the answers you are transferring onto the answer sheet are, at least to the best of your knowledge, the most accurate answer. But if you are not able to find the answer to a particular question, do not leave the space on the answer sheet blank, okay? Do not leave any blank space. You can guess. It's better you do a guesswork around that section of the passage and put some words, some phrase, or whatever answer that they need there. It's advisable to do a guesswork than to leave a blank space. If you leave a blank space, automatically you have lost that mark, okay? Automatically you have lost that mark. Do not leave any blank space, guys. The last tip I want to give you is be very mindful of the matching headings question type, because it is the most difficult question type in the IELTS reading test. Matching headings, where you have to match some heading to a particular paragraph. You have to practice more, devote a lot of your time in that question type because it is more difficult. Try to solve a lot of questions and deduce your own strategy as to how to answer that question type correctly. So you have to devote a lot of time to the matching headings, okay, question type. Thank you very much for watching today. I wish you good luck. I wish you good luck in your IELTS exams. I am Mordecai. This is the Nature and Lifestyle channel. If today is the first time you've watching us, kindly subscribe, kindly like, kindly leave your comments in the comment section. If you have any enquiries, any questions, any recommendations, any corrections, please just write it in the comment section and I will reply you. Thanks again for watching. See you another time.